One light, two lights, three lights, four lights, five lights, and it's go!
What's up, guys? Welcome to the 5 Red Lights. My name's Aaron, and it's 2021. We're back from our brief winter hibernation for Christmas and for New Year. And now I am back armed with 5 predictions for the Formula One 2021 season. Let's get going. Okay, number 1. Lewis Hamilton wins title number 8. Now, I've got actually a Lewis here with me. I actually call him Squarehead. Obvious reasons. He won't be winning a world championship, but the real life Lewis Hamilton very well might be. We're carrying over the cars, of course, mostly from 2020. So providing the champ signs a new deal with Mercedes, because at the time of filming he hasn't, and we're getting towards the end of January at the moment. And if he didn't, what a development that would be. Again, he will be the man to beat in 2021. Since his defeat to Nico Rosberg in 2016, Hamilton has pursued victory with unrelenting aggression, driving both himself and the Mercedes team to greater and greater heights. And we saw this in fruition in 2020. Remember how he and Mercedes actually forced Ferrari to fold in 2017 through just sheer consistency, and Ferrari had to keep pushing and pushing their engines, and eventually they cracked. Vettel as well in 2018. He folded under the pressure, collapsed under the enormity of having to take on this juggernaut and the expectation of the Ferrari fans. And it got to the extent where Ferrari actually ditched him last season because Hamilton and Mercedes brought around a spiral for Sebastian that he just could not get out of. So when man and machine are in such near perfect harmony, much like Michael Schumacher with Ferrari, domination usually follows. Of course, Valtteri Bottas has the same opportunity within that Mercedes team. Arguably, Rubens Barrichello was not afforded the same charity by Ferrari as Bottas is by Mercedes while he was Schumacher's teammate. So I think it's Hamilton's sheer determination and his skill behind the wheel becomes the decisive factor. Bottas pushed Hamilton really close in qualifying during 2020, often less than 1/10 behind over a single lap. But when push came to shove, the critical hundredths of a second fell in the favour of the Englishman. Lewis is still hungry, he's still determined, still ferociously fast, and still without a doubt the benchmark of the field in 2021. So he will win the 2021 World Championship, breaking Schumacher's record, which he tied in 2020, and setting a new landmark for World Championships. Moving on to number 2. McLaren will win a race. So they've signed Daniel Ricciardo to partner their ever-improving protege Lando Norris. And it's going to be all fun and games until the chips are down and a race win or a podium is on the line. I think they'll get a podium first. And I think they will pick up a win in one of the crazy races this season. Because we're going to have a few, I think. We're going to have a changing calendar, given that Australia has already been shifted from March to the end of the season. I think it's in November now. Can't remember off the top of my head. McLaren, they're well placed at the moment. They're on an upward trajectory, and they have been since the end of 2018. Zak Brown has done a great job reinventing the culture around there, because there was a long hangover of the Ron Dennis days. The man whose favourite colour is famously grey. Tells you everything you need to know. That should be used against Ron Dennis and his achievements in any way. He was a formidable force in Formula One and sorely missed. Just outdated now. McLaren, they've been improving their results on the track. They've got fresh investment at the end of the year in 2020. Their technical prowess is returning, something that they were renowned for in the early 2000s, of being an innovative team, a team that creates new things and is really challenging with technology. So the future looks quite bright, just like their cars. The papaya colour stands out among the field. They introduced new aero parts through 2020, and it took them a little while to get on top of them. But when they revitalised the car's performance, having got on top of them, they ended up taking that 3rd place. despite podiums for Racing Point and Renault, including a win for Sergio Perez, of course. So considering that McLaren were, on average, the fourth fastest car, they were excellently executing their races, and that is what got them the P3. They snatched it down to the drivers delivering, the track team doing their job perfectly, and they pinched P3 from Racing Point, who came to regret those 15 points lost over the brake duct saga. They switched from Renault power to Mercedes power this year, and that's going to bring some teething problems. So I think early doors they're going to struggle, but then overall that package will fly. It was a good, solid car last year. It allowed the drivers to attack, and it just needed, just a little bit more power. And if Renault's reliability is anything to go by, Mercedes is an improvement. McLaren will be a force at the front of that midfield battle, and maybe even challenging the heels of Red Bull. The team is now in control of its own destiny and its path towards the front, and I think they'll get on top of their issues fairly quickly because they've shown that they can get on with things and get over it. Arguably, Carlos Sainz should have won a Grand Prix last year, the Italian Grand Prix in Monza, and he possibly could have even scored a podium in Sakir. That said, 2 podiums, 1 each for Sainz and for Norris, represented a lot of progress for the working base team. And with a proven race winner in Daniel Ricciardo joining, and obviously he snatched victory from the jaws of second place on many occasions, most notably in Hungary in 2014 and China in 2018, they might just be perfectly placed to pounce when the opportunities arise. Let's go to number 3. And I'm going to say that Carlos Sainz is going to outscore Charles Leclerc. Now, I'm really hopeful that Carlos has not been signed just to sit behind Charles Leclerc in a 2-car Ferrari train. The Italian team can repair a lot of the damage done to their engine performance last year. And if they can do that, they can step towards the front of the midfield. I can see Binotto, team boss, being open to his drivers racing each other in a similar way to how Vettel and Leclerc were forced into allowing them to battle when they were first partnered in 2019. Obviously, they put their weight behind Vettel, and it all kind of fell apart pretty quickly from there because Charles was an irresistible force and Seb wasn't quite what he was. Charles, obviously, as the incumbent in the team, will be looked to as the team leader, but Carlos has built up a large catalogue of experience. He joined the Formula One circus at the same time as Max Verstappen, of course, and while their careers have kind of diverged somewhat, it could be argued, I think, quite fairly, that Sainz is the more experienced driver based on a range of machinery that he's driven. Obviously, Max has had more experience at the front with Red Bull, but that limits the amount of different scenarios he's exposed to. He's exposed to Red Bull specific scenarios. Carlos has had stints with Toro Rosso for 2 3/4 seasons, then a year and a quarter at Renault. Obviously, he jumped into the Renault a few races from the end of the 2017 season. And then when Renault ditched him, he joined a resurgent McLaren and has kind of rebuilt his profile. So I think Carlos, having gone through all of these growing pains, can lean on this experience if the Ferrari remains a car that is tricky to perfect and tricky at the rear. Charles has proved that he can deal with a car that is more tail happy, and I fully expect him to be grabbing those headline results, whether it be qualifying or in the race. Obviously, he produced some magic performances in 2020, but Carlos is a dependable and consistent peddler. But for some awful luck in 2020 in the early races, he could have easily been way higher than he was in the end. He may have even pinched P4 from Sergio Perez. But following his bizarre retirement, really, from the Russian Grand Prix, where he got the little bollard run all wrong, he scored points in all of the last 7 races, with only Daniel Ricciardo matching and beating him for that feat in terms of points scoring runs. If Carlos keeps up that kind of form, sniping off the mid to lower points, which can then become the juicier rewards when things fall his way, I can quite easily see him outscoring Charles in 2021. Number 4. So this is a fairly short one. Williams are going to move into the midfield. So they've been lagging behind a little bit for the last couple of years. And in 2020, they made a lot of progress. This is the year with the fresh investment of Doralton Capital and George Russell, straight out of a Mercedes. They're going to take a big leap forward. Now, let's put this into context. 2019 to 2020, they decreased their percentage deficit to the front of the grid by 1.3%, which is huge in Formula One terms. Obviously, you can claim that they weren't starting from a very high baseline, but bear in mind, Mercedes took a big leap in performance, both with the chassis and with the engine in 2020. George Russell will bring some learnings from the Sakir Grand Prix with his Mercedes run, and that fresh investment will provide a good supporting structure to the progress and the processes already in place. The 2021 season is a season where I expect Williams to be grabbing the odd point or two. Last year, they were looking at points when things went kind of crazy. They could have picked up those points. Obviously, if George hadn't fell off the track behind the safety car, they probably would have ended up with something. But this is the season where I think they will earn those points regularly on merit. And I think also it's going to give Nicholas Latifi a chance to show exactly what he can do. He had a decent first season. I think George Russell is a star of the future, and Nicholas Latifi is that solid number 2 who backs him up. And if they both score points, then Williams will be very, very pleased with that. Talking of George Russell, number 5, my 5th and final prediction in this video, George Russell to be confirmed at Mercedes for 2022. Now, obviously at the start of the video, or the podcast, however you're consuming this content, whether it's through your ears or through your eyes, we mentioned Lewis Hamilton and the lack of a contract at the moment. Now, I don't think for one moment Lewis won't sign a contract, or Mercedes and Lewis will not be able to come to an agreement. But considering George's performance in the Sakir Grand Prix, Bottas has to step up his game. If Bottas 3 or 4 or 6.0 cannot beat Lewis Hamilton, or be if he's outfoxed by Red Bull, because now they've got Sergio Perez, remember, alongside Max Verstappen, there will be that challenge from the second Red Bull. If Bottas is getting things wrong, it's going to hurt Mercedes even more, especially if Perez is on his game. So unless Mercedes are prepared to boot Hamilton out of the team for 2021, George being in the Mercedes this year was never realistic. For 2022, it's absolutely game on. It's up for grabs. And Bottas has that single-year deal again. Russell has shown what he can do up against Bottas. So really, like I said, the ball is in Valtteri's court. Valtteri's going to need a lot of porridge and espresso to topple Hamilton because he is the man to beat. And if he can, because Valtteri is very capable of being world champion, George will have to wait another year. But if George continues to impress, and as Toto Wolff has said, iron out those mistakes, then Bottas is going to look really, really likely to fall. If he's swatted away by Hamilton's superiority again, the pressure to put the young pretender alongside the king of the F1 castle might just be too much for Toto Wolff to resist. So, they are my 5 predictions for the 2021 season. Obviously, there are so many more things that we could be predicting, but they are the 5 that I'm going to stick with for now. I might make some more after preseason testing, see how things pan out over the 3 days in, I think it's now going to be Bahrain. They haven't confirmed it yet from what I've seen. So let me know your predictions in the comments below, or tweet me at 5_red_lights. Want to hear your predictions. If we get enough really good ones, maybe I can make a video of all of yours. So get in touch in the comments. Let's have some fun with some wacky predictions and see what 2021 holds for us. I've been Aaron. This has been the 5 Red Lights, and this is the Checkered Flag on another podcast.